The first thing that I'm going to do is that create an EC2 instance or launch an EC2 instance. It's okay if you do not know EC2, that's fine. Or else if you want to know a little bit more about EC2, you can go through the appendix chapter on EC2 itself. So after launching EC2, what I'll do is that I will install the client, which is pSQL, and then I'll launch an Aurora PostgreSQL. This is your AWS console and you have to log into your AWS console. If you do not have any AWS account, please go ahead and create an AWS account. And you can use any one of the regions. So let's say Ohio, I'll be creating the EC2 instance and Aurora PostgreSQL database in Ohio region. As I said, you can select any region. So you have to go to the EC2 console. You can type EC2 here, and this is the EC2 console. So what am I going to do is that I'll be launching an EC2 instance with the pSQL client. First, I'll launch an EC2 instance and then I'll log into it and then I'll install the pSQL client in the EC2 instance. So this is the EC2 console and this is the dashboard. You can launch the instance from here or you can go to instances and then launch an instance from here. So just click on it and just follow along. Do not select anything apart from what I'm showing you. Just follow the steps as it is. So now what am I doing? I'll be creating a 3IAM EC2 instance with pSQL client. So that's how I'm naming it as 3IAM EC2 instance pSQL. And in the application and OS images, just select Amazon Linux here. And there are two images available. Go to the Amazon machine image or AMI, and we have Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, and then we have Amazon Linux 2 AMI. So select Amazon Linux 2. And you can select the t2.micro instance. This is free tier eligible. And if you want, you can select a bigger instance also. And then you have to create something called key pair. And there's no key pair as of now. Just click on create new key pair and give it a name. And I'm naming it as 3IAM SQL EC2 key pair. And just select the PEM file. If you have Windows machine, you'll have to select PPK and then you'll have to use a client called putty to log into the EC2 instance. If you have Unix machines, then you can use the .pem file itself. Now click on create key pair, and what it will do is that it will download the key pair. So you can see I'm using Chrome, and if I click on the download button, it shows that this particular key pair has been downloaded. And then check this one. So click on create security group, and here it should be allow SSH topic and it should mention anywhere. And now just launch the instance. That's all you have to do. So it says that the instance has been launched, and click on the EC instances here and you should be able to see the EC2 instance that has been launched. So as you can see, the instance state is running and there's some status checks going on. Just try to SSH when the status checks are complete. So once it is done, what will I do is just click on this, and here in the details portion, you'll find public IPv4 address. And you'll have to use this public IPv4 address to SSH or log in into this EC2 instance. I'll wait for some time till the time the initial status checks are done. So now as you can see, two of the two status checks have been passed and I can SSH into this EC2 instance. As you can see, this is the key pair that has been downloaded and the security state is a little different. The permissions are different. And this is applicable only for Unix machines. If you are using Windows machines, you will have to use a .ppk file, not .pem file. And then you can log in using the ppk file. You can SSH using something called putty. So make sure you download putty, and you can get enough YouTube videos to see how to use putty to log into an EC2 instance. That's a pretty straightforward stuff. I do not have any Windows instance, or else I would have shown you. If you have Unix machines, then what you have to do is you will have to change the permission of this file, the SQL EC2 key pair. So the permission has been changed using chmod 400. Again, this is not needed for Windows machines. If you are using Windows machines, you can use putty and use the .ppk file of this and then SSH into the EC2 instance. But now what will I do? I will use SSH-I followed by the 3 SQL key pair and type EC2-user and followed by the public IP address of the EC2 instance that I have just copied. And here you have @ also. Now if I press enter, I should be able to log in here, type yes, and I am inside of the EC2 instance. Now what we will do is that we'll install the PSQL client. But before installing the PSQL client, we'll have to update the machine, and you can type sudo dnf update -y. You can also mention sudo yum in upgrade y. Now to install the client in Amazon Linux, you have to type sudo Amazon Linux extras install PostgreSQL 15 or 14. Okay, 15 is not there, I guess, so we can try with 14, and it is installing the client. You will find all these commands in the command sheet, so just copy and paste and that should do. After the installation is done, you can type the command psql --version and it should tell you the version, and this is the output that you should get. If you do not get any such output, then you'll have to see whether anything is wrong with the installation. Make sure that you have used Amazon Linux 2 as the AMI. So that is the most important thing. So this portion is done. We have created an EC2 instance and also we have installed the client, which is PSQL. And now what I'll have to do is that I'll have to launch an Aurora PostgreSQL instance. Aurora PostgreSQL instance would be the database server that I was talking about. And this EC2 instance would be the client. Once Aurora PostgreSQL is launched, we can use this PSQL client to connect to Aurora PostgreSQL database server, and then you can run commands and SQL statements. Alright, to launch an Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL database server, what you'll have to do is that you'll have to type RDS here. And then the RDS dashboard would open, and from here you can create the Amazon Aurora instance. So go to databases, and as you can see, I do not have any database as such. So I'll go ahead and create a database. Now there are two options, standard create and easy create. Make sure to select the standard create. You will not use easy create because in that case a lot of things would be skipped. And here it is already selected as Aurora PostgreSQL compatible. Just select that one and then scroll down and keep it as is. Do not change anything. And here you can keep it as production. I'm mentioning the name 3 PostgreSQL cluster. So I cannot start with a numeric, so I can mention IAM PostgreSQL cluster. And here I'll have to mention the credential settings. The user is Postgres and the password, make sure to select self-managed and provide a password. Remember, this is the user ID that will use Postgres and this is the password that will use to log into the database server. So make sure you provide the password properly and keep it safe. Then select Aurora standard here, and here we have something called instance configuration. Don't do anything, just make sure to select or follow along, and these are the various instance classes. In Aurora it will not be of free tier, so that's why what you should do is that you should select this serverless v2, and here mention the minimum to be 1, sorry, the minimum should be 1 and maximum should be 4. 4 is also not needed, to be honest, we can mention maybe 3. So remember to select serverless v2 and then minimum capacity should be 1 and the maximum capacity ACUs should be 3. And then select don't create an Aurora replica, because if you create a replica it will cost you unnecessarily. Keep the remaining thing as is, do not change anything as such, and make sure to mention public access to be yes. Then scroll down, and you can unselect all these things and mention the database as Tinayam SQL DB. Keep everything as is, don't change anything. And here in backup, mention the backup retention period to be 1. And that's it. And go ahead and create the database. So I cannot mention numeric at the beginning. So now go ahead and create the database. It will take some time for the database to be created. And in the meantime, we'll have to do one more stuff. So go to IAM. IAM is AWS's authentication and authorization service. If you want to know about IAM, you can go ahead and check the IAM appendix chapter, or else for this particular exercise, just go to IAM. So on the left hand side in IAM, you will see these roles. Click on roles, and here you will get an option of creating a role. So click on create role. Keep the trusted entity type as AWS service, and in the use case, just type RDS here. Select RDS, and it will give you multiple options, and select RDS add role to database. Click on next, and here it will ask you to add permission. Just type S3 here and select Amazon S3 full access. Click on next. So I'm naming it as Teenayam SQL Aurora S3 role, and then go to the end and click on create role. So the role should get created. You can search that particular role, type Teenayam, and here the role should be there. So this is the role, Teenayam S3 role for Aurora SQL. So now let's go back to the Aurora cluster, and seems like it is still getting created. It'll take some time for this Aurora instance to be up and running. And once it is up and running, we'll be set with the client machine and the database server machine also. And then you can go further and run our SQL statements.